Hello, everyone. Yes, I'm wearing a Capitals jersey, which we will discuss shortly. But first, Russ, something to say.
Well, let's talk about the saga of Tom Brady for the last couple of days because it's been absolutely ridiculous. So I would say it was 3-4 days ago, maybe about 3 days ago, Adam Schefter says, "Hey, Tom Brady's retiring." So then, of course, like an hour later, the agent goes, "No, not so fast."
Yeah, that's what
He hasn't said anything to the team. He hasn't said anything to anybody, and that's when we all knew he's probably planning something. So then, he goes on his podcast, and this is where Tom Brady is not an honest guy. Everybody says, "Oh, he's such a good guy. He's so humble." He goes on his thing with Jim Gray, and he's like, "Yeah, I still have to think about it. I have to make sure everything's right. I have a lot of things to contemplate and everything
it's
else."
up to my wife. That was the other one too, and I just want to throw this out there that in life in general, my least favorite thing that anyone will ever do is say those words, just because it takes you out of the situation. Like it's like it feels like such a wimpy out. Like of course everything's up to your way. Everything's up to your family. You make decisions together. That's the way you do things. I agree.
Well, you're right. It's not.
But to use that as an excuse for anything,
I agree with you on that. Never
bothers me to no end.
There's a caveat to that rule when your wife is Giselle.
No, there's no caveat.
There's no caveat. You never say, "I'd love to do it, but my wife," I mean, that makes me insane.
That's what it is. It's called a family decision.
Right. You decide and then you go. You do not blame your wife. You do not say, "I have to get my wife's permission." You do not, your wife does not, you don't say, "She's the boss." Oh man, those things make me insane.
Let me offer the
Well, I'm just going to finish it and then you can go.
Sorry, that's just something aside.
And then the next morning, he retires on Instagram. It's like, and he's been building his new brand ever since he left New England. Like, Tom Brady never stands for anything. Tom Brady, if he ever gets quoted honestly, always comes back the next day and says, "I was misquoted. That's not what I said." He does this all the time because he's been trying to cash in on his name for the last couple of years, and he wants to continue to do that. And so everything is about buying something. If you I just went to Tom Brady's Instagram now, and the second thing on there after his picture was buy something, and then he was thanking like the Patriots for their statement and the Bucks for their statement. But it's like, please buy something. I don't have enough money.
Yeah.
But this is the thing that I don't think was more calculated. After last year, when you remember the story that broke about Aaron Rodgers happened on, I believe, Super Bowl Sunday, and the NFL was pissed off that it took away from from their signature event, and the news started to break about Brady. I think it was on Sunday, and that's why Brady sort of shut it down, because apparently the NFL contacted him and said, don't take away from these games. If you're going to announce it during the week when nothing else is going on, so you can get. I think that.
But you know what the problem is, Mike? Schefter said today they got him back on ESPN because, of course, they want to protect his reputation. And he's like, Brady knew this a long time ago. This isn't just like he just came to this. He's just announcing it now. He knew.
When you listen to the ESPN interview that he did a little while ago, where he talks about his wife and stuff like that, it's obvious that he's going to do this. It's like, and that was like a couple weeks ago, right? So
now ancillary to this, and I did.
One other thing about Brady. So now this is something I feel like. This is something Batman would never do to Robin, and so Brady retires, right?
Yeah. And
Gronk hasn't announced his retirement. Like Brady brings him out of retirement. He brings him to Tampa. Is that where you're going to go? Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, because this is the interesting thing.
Yeah.
Because last year, apparently, after Gronk had won the Super Bowl in Tampa, he received an offer, and he's from Western New York, and he has said on a few occasions he would like to finish his career playing for the Bills. The Bills offered him a 1-year, $10 million contract offer, and he opted to go back and play another year in Tampa with Brady. Now that Brady's retired, and if Gronk thinks he's only 32 years old. I thought he was older.
He's a slow-moving 32.
He's a slow move, right? But he's still effective.
He still can get open.
He can still get open. So I think that there's a chance. I will be very curious to see if he wraps it up or if he decides he wants to play another year or two. And the Bills, they could use that championship pedigree. So I'd like to see.
I just love how Brady left him hanging, though. Like he made sure he came there out of retirement. The guy helps him win a Super Bowl, and now it's like, hey, Gronk, see, I'm going to retire. Okay, bye.
Well, he only had one.
Don't you think that Brady told him what was going on the whole time?
I would, but still, like to the public.
Think he did. I think he did. I think he knew.
I think he did too, but to the public, you don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All we need are more USAA commercials with Gronk.
Yeah. All right, let's go here. Let's go. It's February 1st, kids. Either that or it's January 32nd. I'm not sure. All right, ready? Hello, Hockey World. It's Tuesday, February 1st, 2022.
I'm Michael Agello, and does your phone say January 32nd?
Check my phone. I just remembered.
From Sportsology.
And I'm Eklund, getting a little more sleep these days. Just a little.
If it does read January 32nd, you probably got it in China.
Yeah, it's my fake iPhone. And I'm Eklund. You're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday to fill you in on companies going in the hockey world and does not try weird TikTok ways to make money during the day. My God.
But we do have. You asked yesterday.
I love it, Russ. I got to get that up somehow. Just send me the. Oh, you did send it.
I'll send it to you.
You sent it to me. I have it right here. I can do it right here. I got it. Actually, send it to me again, Russ, because in a private thing, like just you and I in a private text, because it will come up.
Eck the Eagle, or say.
I take great pride in this because I've always compared the Calgary Flames coach Sutter.
Yes,
to,
I know.
To Sam the Eagle.
It's a combination of Sam the Eagle and Bitter Beer Face.
They do look a lot alike. I'll give you that. I'll definitely tell you that. That's very true. But I'll show you that later.
What was the face? That's the face.
At the end of the show, we will get to the face, the Muppet face that Russ accused me of having yesterday.
That was the face that Eck made. I took it right from when he mentioned Andrew Mangiapane, and everybody said no, and it was
yes. That was the moment.
God, you guys have too much time on your hands. And anyway, wow. All right, so I am wearing a Capitals jersey today, and the reason for this is not like anything spectacular except for the fact that I got this jersey. And and we were just talking about before the show, but when this jersey came out, this is the 1974 Capitals jersey. This is a Walter jersey, so number 9,
right?
And and this is one. I'm a huge fan of Mitchell and Ness jerseys. I think they just do an incredible job at them. That's what this is. They do a great job of just bringing back, if you can't find the old vintage jerseys that feel like old vintage jerseys anymore, but this does feel like it. When this jersey came out, and when I remember watching this team as a kid, I thought this was the worst jersey in the NHL. I really felt like this was terrible. And I was also I also was not a fan of the Vancouver Canucks jersey with the just the square and the hockey stick.
That's because Rod Langway wore it, and we all hated him as fans of other teams.
I think you're tying the jersey to the fact that the teams were losers.
No, I'm really not. This to me, this was a bad team, but at the same time, this was just what is this? What is this logo? It's like, what does this mean? Even it's basically just the writing of the team. And then the hockey stick and the puck and all that stuff was cool. I used to draw this logo. I remember drawing this logo quite a bit. But now, the Capitals have gone through so many different jerseys over the years and like that, and they have version now that sort of has is a callback to this, but more stylized, not nearly as cool as this. And they wear this once in a while too.
Yeah, as a throwback.
It's their throwback jersey, but this has now become one of my favorite jerseys. It's really interesting. I just think how time changes things like that. Is there any jersey that you guys can think of that you hated as a kid or that you like now? I just really.
No, I'm pretty consistent. If I hated it then, I hate it now.
I'll tell you one. I'll give you one. And I think the Gordon's Fisherman helped this. I used to, when I was a kid, I would trace and draw a lot of pennants, right? That I had.
Yeah.
I would do the logos.
Yep.
And I had the Islanders logo. I was 10 years old when they came in.
Yeah.
And so I would do that one a lot. I still like the classic Islanders logo because it shows the outline of Long Island.
Yeah.
It's really smartly done. And so I still like that.
Yeah, no, I liked it. I mean, there weren't many jerseys early.
Is that the right answer? I get 500 points.
The right answer. You win, Russ.
Yeah, there weren't many jerseys early on that I disliked in terms of their design.
You guys don't like the you guys always say you didn't like the Vancouver Big V jersey.
Oh, no, I still hate it.
Yeah, no, it looks like a court jester.
I love that one. That's one of my favorites.
It's absolutely terrible. I mean, when they sort of modified it and then put the emblem with the skate, with the speed, that was a little better, but it's still, that orange. What was it? Orange, gold, black. It was this ridiculous
I always want to get down to the bottom of it, though, when you say you love it, X. So if you renewed your marriage vows, would you wear that Canucks jersey?
I renew my marriage vows wearing that jersey. No, I would not.
Okay.
So I wouldn't renew my wedding vows. First of all, I would never renew my wedding vows because I don't need to. I'm a one vow guy. Secondly,
I feel the same way, actually.
You know, that always bothers me when people renew their wedding vows. It's like,
I think you're right.
Actually. It reminds me of like renewing a book at the library. That's what it feels like to me.
I don't know what that's like. No, I'll say this. I think one of the worst choices, and they did it. They, like any jersey change, they did it to sell jerseys, to sell new jerseys. The switch from the blue and gold original Sabres jersey to the black, red, and white with the decapitated goat's head.
Yeah, big step down.
Was a friggin' atrocity.
Big step down. I agree with you, Mike.
And then they didn't have the guts to go back to the original emblem. They went to the garden slug. They went back to the blue and gold, but they had the garden slug with the swooping thing that looked like Donald Trump's head. And I said that before Donald Trump was president. It was terrible. Yeah. I mean, they just go back to what was good. But again, it was done because they wanted to sell jerseys.
Yeah. And yeah, they had. I mean, they wanted to. And that Buffalo Sabres jersey that was a really popular jersey. The one they wear now is fantastic. Like and sure, there is definitely a bit of sentimentality involved here. I mean, obviously, the first thing you see is something. It's just like the first album you buy of a band is usually your favorite. You know, that's just the way it goes. You know, that's the first. But there are certain instances where. Like I think like right now, like I mean, the team that's gone through the worst jerseys in the NHL might be the Anaheim Ducks. Just from every kind of jersey they've had, I think has sucked. Honestly,
I hated the Mighty Ducks jersey. I still do.
The original Ducks jersey was just awful corporate sponsorship type crap. Then you go to the and by the way, if you see the Mighty Ducks news show at all, I started.
No, why would I watch that?
Yeah,
we gotta watch it. It's hockey related.
No, I'm not gonna.
Anyway, I haven't seen it yet either, but I'm going to. It's on our app that we share. Anyway, I'm
not gonna kill brain cells.
I threw it into our favorites, but so anyway, there's that one. Then the Anaheim Ducks one for a while. The really weird one that was like hard to even explain what it meant. It was just it was like the whole duck on there skating. That is the worst NHL jersey of all time.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I think is an atrocity, and maybe it has something to do with me not liking the team and the owner. I really, and I know people who are from Connecticut who are pissed off every time the Carolina Hurricanes co-opt and wear the Hartford Whalers jersey. Don't do it. You know what? It's like you're not the Hartford Whalers. You stole the Whalers from Hartford. Now you're going to make it even worse by rubbing it in their face and wearing their jersey.
Well, I have a good friend who is just a friggin' diehard Whalers guy. Like he was a season ticket holder the whole time. It was his team. He just he was 100%. I mean, he was a Bruins fan before that, of course, but he became a Whalers fan. And I asked him what he thought of that, because like when I saw, because I kind of like, I just like it. You feel the same way about the Nordiques jersey with Colorado, Mike? Same kind of concept?
Yeah.
Like, you're not allowed to wear that.
No. And Ace in the chat, the Montreal Canadiens third jersey or throwback jersey, it was like a Wang Chung video in terms of causing epileptic fits. Remember the barbershop red, white, and blue stripes that they had? It was there's some jerseys that you should never. There are just some iconic jerseys in the NHL that you can't have other alternate jerseys. There are some teams that just can't have alternate jerseys, and that's the reality. I mean, Toronto's one of them. Montreal's one of them. The Red Wings are one of them. The Rangers are one of them. Like, to me, there are certain teams that and I guess I'm pretty much going through the original 6 teams. Although I have liked some of the Bruins alternate jerseys they've had over the years. I don't like the bear.
I hate the Pooh Bear.
I don't like the bear one, no, but I like the yellow one with just the simpler B, which actually just a throwback to their older jerseys. It's really more
not to count the reverse retro jerseys because most of them were crap. But I mean, when it came to the Leafs, the whole thing was, and this the changeover only happened 4 or 5 years ago, was when they went to the more modern Leaf emblem,
right?
Back to the frilly maple leaf of the championship years.
Yeah,
and that was all because of copyright infringement. Because Harold Ballard,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Harold Ballard changed over the emblem because he didn't want to pay the copyright on the old one.
Wow, that's crazy. Like, and like, and just think of all the money the Leafs have had over the years that I mean, at that time, maybe they didn't have that much money. I mean, Harold Ballard was notorious for running out of money, right? Like they was not.
No, he was notorious for holding on to money. He could have paid people. They called it the Carlton Street cash box for one reason. Because all the money went in his pocket and didn't go to the players. I like what Andrew said here. Imagine the Jets throwing on like Winnipeg, Atlanta Thrashers jerseys.
Yeah, they'll never do it.
I know. And similar to that, the other thing I feel I've always wanted to see happen is, and this is also will never happen, probably shouldn't happen, but one of my favorite jerseys that I want to see back is I would like to see the Devils wear the Colorado Avalanche jerseys. Colorado Rockies jerseys. Sorry, Colorado Rockies jerseys.
Or Kansas City Scouts because they were that before that.
Yeah, but the Rockies jerseys are cool. Like the Rockies jerseys were very cool. I'm surprised the Avalanche never wore them. Like in a way, like and people say, well, that's because that's not the same franchise. But then like when you look at the Winnipeg Jets, they've done it. They've gone back to the Jets, and even though that Winnipeg Jets is now Arizona.
Do you think the Rangers will ever wear like the New York Americans jersey?
No, they hated them.
I know.
Yeah.
Exactly. They both played the building at the same time. They kicked out the Americans.
Yep.
Yeah. There's certain things like, I wouldn't mind the Flyers trying like a Philadelphia Firebirds jersey at some point. I thought that would be kind of cool. There's certain things. Okay. For like a one-off
interest, actually the Phantoms did that.
They wore a Firebirds thing?
The Phantoms wore Firebirds one.
Yeah, I know that. Really? That's cool. Yeah. I was not aware of that. I'd like to see pictures of that. I have a Firebirds jersey like from way back when. There's a Devils jersey, the original Jersey Devils that played in the Cherry Hill Arena. They were called the Jersey Red Devils, I want to say. That played in the Cherry Hill Arena, which is right around the corner from where I grew up, and literally is still a Walmart where my mom frequents every week.
I hope there's not a Golden Corral there.
No, there's not a Golden Corral there, but that was a stadium where some pretty big players played there. I think Bouchard, the goalie, was one of the more famous guys who played there.
Daniel Bouchard,
yep. Bernie Perrant played in that arena as a member of whatever that league was. I forget what that league was. To me, getting back to the Capitals thing, I never in a million years, the young me would be like, what are you doing wearing a Capitals jersey? First of all, you grew up hating the team because they were an enemy of your team, but also just like particularly making a point of saying they just simply wrote Washington Capitals on the front of their shirts. What is special about that? But I think what we've seen is just like, I just like it. I like the way they put it. I like the way it looks together. I mean, I was debating whether to get the white or the red. I kind of maybe might like the white more, but the Mitchell and Ness, they didn't make it in white. They only made it in red. So, and it was, it was pretty cheap on eBay. So I grabbed it, but, yeah, it's kind of cool. So, I mean, there are jerseys now that I love too, that have teams that have changed their jerseys that I'm really angry at. There's that too. One of the and the number one jersey that I hate now that I just am really furious at was my favorite jersey in the 80s was the Edmonton Oilers blue and orange jerseys. The Edmonton Oilers,
nice jersey.
It was incredible. It was like the blue and orange is such an amazing color combination together. Live, they looked amazing. Like that Edmonton, like at Matt's, right? Blue and orange. I think live those Oilers with Gretzky and Curry and Coffee. They looked incredible, when they would come to town in those blue and orange jerseys. And the fact that they went to this, what they're doing now, this black and orange jersey is just horrendous to me. It just looks terrible. I don't get it. And I really am angry that they did that. But, I mean, I like the Flames jerseys. I do. I think that I like when they went backwards to for them as well. I think that going back to those originals, because to me, those Flames Oilers classic, the Joel Otto versus Wayne Gretzky era, that's like that's the Oilers, what should always be Oilers and Flames jerseys forever. Those were the ones. And I'm even mad. Like in football, I was a fan of the Rams because of their jerseys as a kid. That was my team. I just don't like the new Rams jerseys. I don't like the new Rams colors at all. Anyway, that's an aside.
The new Rams for football?
Football, yeah.
Oh, I love it. I always thought the Rams logo was great.
They were my favorite as a kid. That's why they were my favorite team.
Do you remember when they went to white and blue instead of yellow and blue?
Yeah, that was before my time a little bit.
Yeah, that's like John Hadel territory.
Yeah,
yeah, like I'm more of the Vince Ferragamo Rams.
Right.
As a kid. That would be my Rams. They didn't win this. They never won it all. They got kind of close. They got close once against the Steelers. But yeah,
Pat, what's his last name?
Pat
Hayden before Ferragamo, and I love those jerseys. I agree.
No, those jerseys were amazing. I don't like the light blue. The light blue that they went to now, though. The new blue that they have is not as cool as the old blue they had. In my mind. Anyway, there you have it. Let's talk hockey. Sorry, but jerseys is always a fun thing to discuss as well. I'm going to get to my topic in a second of my blog today, because I'm getting a lot of response to it. Where the NHL should go, Houston or Quebec. But we'll talk about that in a second. But Mike, let's go to the news first.
I was going to say, let's talk about some of the games last night, because I was talking to Russ about this and said, the Panthers, they set a record scoring 75 goals in a month. That was the most by any NHL team in history.
Crazy.
That's an amazing record.
Yeah, and last night they put an 8 spot on the on the Columbus Blue Jackets, and I was just bemoaning the fact, and I took a little heat on social media on this, but I'm comforted in the fact that I called this back when this minor trade was made a few years ago. And in the game, Mason Marchment, who is a former Leaf, former Toronto Marley,
I really like
son of Brian Marchment,
really like him,
had a 6-point night, 2 goals and 4 assists. now, okay, did I think Mason Marchment was going to end up being, and I don't think he's a top 9 forward. I think he's more of a 4th liner, but
he's a 3rd liner in my mind. But
if he ascends to that level, right now he's playing with Anton Lundell and Sam Reinhart, so he's playing with good line mates, and that's really helping him. But this is the thing, as part of me covering the Leafs, I also covered the Marlies. I covered the Marlies when they won the Calder Cup in 2018. I covered them before that and after that, and before the pandemic really made it impossible for me to cover them on a daily basis. I saw Mason Marchment and said early on he was not a good skater, but he improved.
Yeah.
He scored regularly. And the only mark against him was that he got hurt all the time. His durability was in question because he played a rough and tumble game.
Yeah, he plays a tough game.
He played 4 games for the Leafs. They trade him to Florida for Dennis Malgin. And Dennis Malgin is the prototypical Leaf in terms of small, speedy, skilled. By the way, he had 8 games for the Leafs, didn't score a point, and then ended up going back to Switzerland and probably is never coming back. I don't even know if the Leafs have his rights anymore. Mason Marchment's got 23 points this year. I'm like, I've been a supporter
Michael Bunting territory.
I've been a supporter of most of the things Kyle Dubas did, and other than the fact that Marchment's options may have been up, I don't understand why they made that deal. I'm not saying it's going to break Kyle Dubas or it's going to be something that gets him fired. I just didn't understand the move. And Mason Marchment now is an effective forward for the Florida Panthers and plays the type of game that the Leafs acknowledged after the fact by getting Simmons and Clifford. Needed that type of guy.
If he had 2 good players to play with on the Leafs, it might have been a different story, Mike.
Right? He could. I mean, what are you going to say?
I'm kidding.
But he only played 4 games, so it's like the reality is like he did get better. He did work on his game. He did improve, and so it's not all on Dubas's head because he wasn't that player yet, but he has worked really hard to get there, and he is. When Florida came to town to Philly earlier in the year, Marchment had a really good game, and I was talking to some of the Florida people after the game. And just saying, man, that guy is like, and I remember texting you about it, Mike, at the time. I said that guy is really something. Like he is going to be a significant player for you guys, he's just another one of so many players you have already. It's just amazing.
He's got a motor. I mean, he that's the thing. He's a big guy, and he tries all the time. And like they have 2 players, and you can look at any organization and say, oh, well, woe is us. We gave up on this guy, and then he ended up being something down the line. Carter Verhaeghe, who's on the Panthers, he was a 3rd-round pick of the Leafs. Lou Lamoriello, that brilliant general manager, dumped him along with 4 other guys for Michael Grabner back in 2015. It was one of his first moves.
Yeah.
Carter Verhaeghe led the AHL in scoring, won a Stanley Cup with Tampa, and now earned himself a big contract with the Panthers. And he's a key player for them. He never got a chance with the Leaf organization under Lou and Mark Hunter. I don't know why. They dumped him after a year or two after drafting him. That kind of, yes, that kind of stuff happens with every organization. You can say it happened with the Flyers with Patrick Sharp and other players. But you know what? You just don't. Those are the things that define you. And I scratch my head every time I see Carter Verhaeghe playing.
These are touching stories. They really are.
I really.
Ryan Graves.
I tell you, like this Panthers team is so. Isn't this the second time they put up an 8 spot against Columbus this month? Like, didn't they have 8 goals against them earlier in the month too?
Yes, I think so.
They had
a lot of 8-goal games.
Has anyone scored 16 goals against one team in a month ever?
No team has had more 8-goal games than they have.
Maybe the Washington Capitals with Greg Jolly.
And there is the crazy irony of this, guys, that that this is our buddy Bill Zito's ex-team, right? Like this is where he comes from.
Yes.
Comes from Columbus, right? And there's a couple guys on the team. They're having a couple Blue Jackets that he brought. A few of them, very few of them, but very few of them have been there. Yeah, I just have a feeling that this is a special thing for.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think there was some money on the bulletin board and the.
I'm going to try to find out. They put up 9 last time. Thank you. They put up 9 last game. It was 8 this time. Who scores 9 goals in the NHL? This is just
Panthers do. They've done it more than once.
This is an insane team right now. And remember, they're using their interim coach.
Listen, I was the only one who didn't have a problem with the interim coach. Everybody else was assuming he wouldn't be there long. And I said, why?
No, I didn't either. But the thing about the Panthers that really amazes me on how they're built is they are so balanced, not just in scoring, but obviously, defensively they've got some solid players. They've got 2 goalies who are legitimate, and I know Spencer Knight's not having
a little help on defense.
They could use a little more help on defense for sure, but when you're scoring 8 goals, you can get away with it to a degree. And the playoffs will be, it all depends on how they play against Tampa, right? At the end of the day, the Florida Panthers are as good as they are against Tampa because
they were good against them last year.
They were good against them last year, and they were. They've been good against them this year too. And the reality is, like, they play that team very tough, but there is not a team that I can remember that plays, not only high scoring, but high intensity and physically as tough. Like, physically, the Panthers might be the toughest team in the league as well.
Right. But we have to say one thing. If Aaron Ekblad wasn't healthy, this wouldn't be happening to this degree. It wouldn't.
Oh, yeah. No, it wouldn't.
It's a massive. Because we've been saying it all along. Like, how talented this guy is.
Yeah. There's no question. He's their best defenseman by far. He's a serious. And the loss of him last year is why, you could argue that Tampa wins the Stanley Cup because in that 7-game series, if Ekblad's in that series, I don't know. You don't know like how that goes. And then maybe Tampa doesn't win a cup, and maybe Montreal wins the Stanley Cup. Who knows? But anything could have happened. The reality is that the way they play and their physical nature that they play at, the way they hit, and they have that old school. They are the most old school team we've seen in a long time. Where when they get down, they make you hurt. Like they will hurt you. They do not. It reminds me of the Bruins and Flyers of old. That you don't want to beat them. Like when you're beating them by 2 or 3 goals and the game's out of reach. They're players like. They have players who will go after you and make.
There's one little worry though for Florida.
Yeah,
they're running a little too hot right now, going into a break.
Yeah,
and you do worry about that because there's going to be other teams that when they get the rest will come out guns blazing, and you do wonder will they come out with this same intensity? If they do, nobody will stop them.
They wish the playoffs started right now.
But remember. They did in this month, even though they set that record, they did struggle in this month a little bit. Like there were times when Florida wasn't doing incredibly well this month. They had a little bit of a few dips. Not right now, but earlier in the month they had a few dips. And they also, like I said, I was a little concerned because they went something like 7 or 8 road games without winning a game in regulation.
That out like a few shows ago.
Yeah, and because they were winning games, but they weren't winning them in regulation, and it's like that's. And you're winning still, but it shows that they weren't perfect at all.
But they've played they've played, I think, 26 or 27 home games already. They're like 23-3. So the second half of the season is going to be, significantly heavy road games. So which
will be harder. Yeah.
And the good news about their home thing is that their attendance is up, and their attendance is up like 20%.
It should be. They're one of the best teams in the league.
No question. I mean, it's still not, it's still not great.
No.
And it's still way, way below where it has to be for them to survive long term, because this is a team that if they're going to keep paying, if they're going to be this good, they're going to have to pay to the salary cap, and they're not going to be able to pay the salary cap if they don't have the attendance.
Now, there were two other games I wanted to talk about, and this, I wrote about this morning, and I have to send out the warning signs to Leaf fans. I really, really do, because 7 of the last 9 games they've given up 3 goals or more. If they're not blowing 3-1 leads, they're down 4-2 in the third period, which they were again against Detroit on Saturday. They scored 5 unanswered goals in the last half of the third period to win on Saturday. Last night they were down 4-2 going in the third, scored 4 unanswered goals.
Right.
You can do that when you're playing against, Detroit is a young team, but when you're playing against New Jersey with a goalie, Russ, that I've never heard before, in Akira Schmid.
I've heard the name, but it's not a household. Yeah.
He's a 21-year-old Swiss goalie.
Is he related to the old Schmid?
That's spelled SMID. This is SCHMID.
Got it. Okay.
But the whole point is that you can take advantage of those teams and fall behind and come back, and it's you're not going to get 60-minute efforts out of a team halfway through the season, but the Leafs are not playing the way that they did when they were red hot in November. They're still winning games, but if you look at Jack Campbell's stats, and I showed this in my blog, since December 1st, his goals against is over 3. His save percentage is under 900, but he's still 8-2-2. And I think the worst thing that happened to the Leafs was on December 1st in a game that I was at. They blew out Colorado 8-3. And ever since then, they're like, oh, we don't have to play that responsible defensive game. We can play fast and loose, and we can beat Colorado.
You're just looking for a crack in the foundation, though. You're going with a magnifying glass. You're looking for the crack in the foundation. Like, all teams are going to have these moments in a long season. I think it's too early to worry about a trend yet. I do.
No, Russ,
it's not. I don't think it is in this trend. I usually would be the first to say that Mike was doing that, but I think in this case, I don't think so, because I think that this is a team that you've seen. You see the holes, and you also have to have the reality of Florida and Tampa. Like, you have to be able to compete with those teams.
Yeah, but I think Campbell needs a breather. This is the most games he's ever played, probably.
Oh yeah, no, Campbell definitely needs a breather, and Campbell is still the one thing out. Here's the positive side, Mike. Campbell is doing what Leaf goalies don't do, which is find ways to win games, and he's still a big momentum save goalie, even when his numbers aren't the greatest. Like, he still comes up the saves when they need it.
And last night he got pulled after giving up 3 goals on 9 shots. And like I said on previous shows, they're going to need, especially in February when they're going to play after tonight, they're going to play 11 games in 17 nights. They're going to need Mrazek. And Mrazek has won 2 games in a row. And I don't think Mrazek's a great goaltender, but they're going to need them to split the duties.
He's good enough, but his health is always risky, right? So that's where your fear comes into play. Like, who is it after him, Mike? Where do you go?
Both of them have questionable.
Right. So you're gonna need another goalie, and there have been rumors out there that Toronto has been looking at other goalies.
Their other goalie is Hutchinson, so they're not gonna go. They're not going to go expending assets to get another goalie when their main problem, and I continue to say their main problem, is that defensively, without Jake Muzzin, who's going to be out until after the All-Star break with a concussion, their defense is, I think, below average. I mean, the top pairing is really good, and I like Sandin and Liljegren as young defensemen, but, Justin Hall and Travis Dermott, they're just not up to it. And if you have to play those guys 15, 16, 17 minutes in a playoff scenario, you're going to get schooled. So they need to upgrade. And I know Elliot Friedman reported that they're looking at Josh Manson if Anaheim is going to trade him before the deadline, and that
would be a phenomenal pickup for them. I mean, that would be the player I would get to if they can get him. I would, but I don't know that Anaheim's moving him because of where things are going.
That's the question.
Anaheim's still playing tough, and Rush checking into our minor league trade here. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Dallas traded Ty Felhaber to Tampa for Alexei Lipanov. Now, I don't know Felhaber. I do know Lipanov. Actually, it's funny. The Flyers had interest in Lipanov in his draft year because he's a guy that looked good in the World Juniors, and offensively and defensively, not a ton of speed, but a lot of skill and hockey IQ. For whatever reason, he's not clicked in with Tampa, maybe because just the glut of talent that they have, but he's still only 22. This could be good for Dallas. Like, this guy does have talent. And yeah, he played for the Barrie Colts, Sudbury. I remember him, and I do think there's something there. I don't know the other player, but I know. Yeah,
I just looked him up, Russ. He's a undrafted free agent, played for Saginaw and Ottawa. Has played with Texas the last 3 seasons and hasn't scored over 4 goals. So he's
just like a guy that Dallas signed.
He's a body. He's a body.
Yeah, but Lipanov, there's something there. And maybe he just needs a little reworking and a chance. But at 22, this is a good pickup for Dallas.
Well, this also might be a case like an Alexander Volkov, who, he probably wasn't going to get an opportunity with Tampa Bay to play, and they're fearful he could go back to Russia. So that might be what's going on here.
I always wonder in situations like this if there's a guy on Dallas, like a Russian player who's played with him and knows him and says, "You got."
I think this would be Jim Nill. Jim Nill's a really good. He knows prospects. He knows them all. Even though he's still a GM, he's heavily involved in. As far as knowing the players, he's not out scouting as much as he used to, but as an assistant GM, he was doing a lot of that. And so he knows this player, and I feel like he knew he could get him. And it's almost like what Mike said. I think probably Tampa did know they were losing this guy, so they were willing to take just about anything. And I think Dallas pounced on it. I think this was smart.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to get something for really nothing and you give it a shot, why not? Yep. I mean, Dallas is right in that spot where they're, that Western Conference race is really fun. I mean,
yes,
that's a fun race, as opposed to the Eastern Conference race, which is just not a lot of fun right now. But it's not over in the Eastern Conference. But
it is over. Please.
2 losses. I know it takes 2 losses by the Islanders and it's over, right?
Oh my God! But by the way,
over X. Seriously.
One other game that we just have to talk about, just because when I saw this final score, I rubbed my hands with glee. The Ottawa Senators win over the Edmonton Oilers 3-2 in overtime. Hey, how's that Evander Kane going for you, folks?
Well, this is the limping into the break thing. Like we know that they're a flawed team, but a lot of teams start to lose some gas going into the break. I pointed out how great the Kings have looked coming through the East here in the last few days, and I think a lot of these teams in the East are weary of just trying to stay in the race. So, look. I don't think it's over for them, Mike, because
no. Randy wanted me to show the sign, so I'm showing the sign. That's for the Islanders.
Yes, okay, because Edmonton's still in it. If I were them, I would go after Varlamov because we know they're not getting Fleury. That's who I would try and get.
Yeah,
the Islanders can eat most of. They can eat 50%.
Okay, what's going to have to happen, like in a Varlamov type of deal, say for example. The Islanders are going to have to take back Koskinen because he's an exploiter.
Yeah, they could just do that. That's true.
Do that, then that basically, then you can fit Varlamov's $5 million salary in place of the $4.5 million.
I think he's one of the few goalies out there that you could put into a different situation and he'll do pretty well.
He seems
off years in Colorado. I guess
he seems to thrive more when he's busy, like a Luongo.
Well, he does, and that's why the Islanders but he's done pretty well on the Islanders team that's been pretty good defensively too.
He has.
I definitely see that with some goalies out there for sure. He used to be that way. I think I felt like he was that way, and I would have said he was that way until he went to the Islanders. But now I think he's able to do both. He actually has, and I feel like I just can't help but think that Tippett's days are over at Edmonton. Like, I really feel like there's nothing.
Well,
it's been too long as Ben Franklin said, history repeats. It's it's just like I'm sorry. I'll go over Albert Einstein. The definition of insanity with history, right? Like, the same thing over and over again. It's like this Oilers team, no matter what they do, it's the same season over and over
again.
I
do want to point out Alex Stalock has only played 2 games and he's rusty right now. So that, maybe in a month he could help them.
The savior.
He is better than anything they've got.
He gets hot in the AHL. I'd bring him up in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
that's not saying much. Please.
Honestly,
I will
tell you this. That 2 years ago, before he got injured, he was better than Mrazek.
I will tell. Well, okay. Yeah. I will tell you right now. The only hope right now for the Edmonton Oilers in goal is Stuart Skinner. He's the only hope.
But he's not ready. He's not ready.
Then you have no hope. Then you're done. Unless you go out and get yourself a goaltender.
They need to get a goalie. And I don't think there's any doubt they will. Okay. I really think that they will get a goalie. And I don't know how, and I don't know who. And I don't know if it'll be as big as Varlamov or one of these guys we want to get. But they have to, and they have to soon, because this is not a matter of waiting the next 7 weeks for the trade deadline. This is the team.
It's getting to a point, Act, where, like, right now the only thing that might be within range for the Oilers is the second wild card spot, because Vegas, Anaheim, and LA are all in the 50s in terms of points. Edmonton's at 47. All those teams have played more games, but really, I've looked at Edmonton's schedule, and they've played Vancouver, they've played Montreal, they've played Ottawa. They're playing a lot of teams that they should beat, and some of them they're beating, some of them not. Their schedule gets tough in the second half.
But Vancouver's almost torched now too. Like, they're
right. I'm saying they're playing easy. They're playing easy games, and they're not getting all the points that they should out of them. When their schedule gets tough, I don't know if they're defensively sound enough, and I don't know if they're gonna have the goaltending. There's just so much that McDavid and Draisaitl and Nurse and the core of that team can do.
Yeah, well, of all the playoff teams chasing that final wild card spot in the West, Calgary, Dallas, Edmonton, San Jose, Vancouver, Winnipeg.
Yep.
Of all those teams, Winnipeg, Chicago, Seattle, and Arizona. Let's just take all the teams in the West. Only one of those bottom 8 teams. Mm-hmm. Only one of those bottom 8 teams has won 5 of their last 10. It's crazy. Like, no one over there is taking this thing. Like, no one is. Dallas is the only one that's won. Dallas is 6-4 in their last 10.
They're all wallowing. They're all wallowing. They're all
about this. They're all like 4-4-2. Like, it's an amazing. Like, when you look at, there's like 4 teams that are 4-4-2. Calgary's 4-6.
I think Dallas is fool's gold, though. I do.
Yeah, I do too. And I think Dallas has to make a move. They have to move one of their goalies. Like,
right.
To me, I would if I was Edmonton, I would also look at Holtby. I would look at Holtby in Edmonton.
Okay, why would Jim Nill help out Edmonton, who's one of their main competitors for a playoff spot?
Because Edmonton is going to be in big trouble and going to have to offer up a lot. Like, basically,
there's a relationship there between Ken Holland and Jim Nill, because
big relationship, like, and a huge amount of respect. I mean, that Jim Nill was brought up.
Calgary could fall out of it too. Calgary is not like.
Oh, I know they've been 4-6 in the last 10, and they're
But the one thing about Calgary is they have the same amount of games to make up that Edmonton does. So, like, they're a point ahead. They have a game in hand, and they've played well. I mean,
but that's not much. They were in first place, Mike.
Right. But Russ, I mean, they've only played 40 games as opposed to Vegas at 45, Anaheim at 48, and LA at 46.
No, but like you said, Edmonton's at 41.
Right.
But if they were even to get 6 points out of those 6 games at hand, that's even if they were just go there, they would be right there with LA, and Anaheim.
I'm more confident in Calgary being able to get points consistently, playing a solid defensive style with Markstrom in goal and enough offense, and with superstar Andrew Mangiapane at the helm, that they would be more consistent and be able to do better than Edmonton, who is top heavy, who has a phenomenal talent in the top 6 and their top pairing defense, but the depth at forward, at defense, and in goal is putrid.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, this is it's a fascinating it's that Pacific Division is fascinating in so many ways. I mean, the fact that Vegas, everyone's like, oh, Vegas is the best. They're 4-4-2 in their last 10, guys. It's like there's nothing like Vegas isn't running away with it at all.
Vegas is basically holding their breath until Eichel comes back.
I'll tell you what I see happening.
We don't know what Eichel's going to be.
I know, but that's what they're waiting for.
Yeah,
of course. If one of Anaheim or LA will drop, I think that
I don't think it's going to be LA.
It does seem like it could be LA, and I don't think
it's going to be LA. No,
I do think St. Louis could overtake Minnesota in the divisional standings, and Minnesota still go in as a wild card. That is possible because they're having some ups and downs themselves.
I think St. Louis catches Nashville, to be honest. I really do, because I think that that Nashville.
That's true. Actually,
Nashville is the team that
Nashville's only a point ahead.
They're only a point ahead. They've got what St. Louis has a game in hand.
Yeah, Nashville probably gets bumped.
And Minnesota's got 5 games in hand on Nashville.
Oh, do they have 5 games?
The team that puzzles me is Winnipeg. I can't believe that Winnipeg has been as bad as they've been.
I picked them out of the playoffs.
I know.
I picked them in second to last place in their division. You guys laughed.
I was going to say you called it.
I did not laugh at you because I didn't pick them for the playoffs either.
You always laugh at me.
I still think with Hellebuyck in goal, with their defense improved, and with the talent they have up front, I can't believe that they're going to be an 86-point team. Yeah. I would think that they're going to have a big second half.
Go look at Neil Pion's numbers; they've crash landed.
Yeah, I know. I don't get it. It's bad.
Well, I do. He was having a career year last year.
Yeah.
Actually, was that 2 years ago? I guess with the 45 points.
Yeah.
I mean, Colorado and Minnesota are really the best teams in and it's just to me, it's not even close. Like after that, there's a huge gap. There's just an enormous gap between those teams. And I think that and Colorado especially
that I missed that completely. That's a big factor.
Yeah.
What is? What's a big factor?
I didn't see that Minnesota had 5 games in hand on Nashville. I would have said Nashville would drop.
Yeah, they've got 4 games in hand on Colorado. I mean, it's like, but what you have to look at these days, is honestly is because these teams are so weird. Is the winning percentage, and the Colorado Avalanche are 779. Like you're getting close to 800. That's just
I know Guerin's going to make at least a move at the deadline.
Yeah,
I can tell you, I have a great feeling about this.
Okay, what and we're gonna do this on Thursday and Friday after when we're killing time until the All-Star game. Like what GMs, if you were GM of this team, what would you do?
Yeah.
Guerin, I mean, I don't know if they really need more offense with the young guys that they have coming.
They'll bring a veteran in. They will.
Yeah, maybe, but I mean, if they're confident in Kakkonen and Talbot, fine. I'm not. I would go out and get a goaltender. I would be in on Fleury. I would be in on
Kakkonen's red hot. I'd leave him alone.
Okay. Yeah, I am not confident going into the playoffs in Cam Talbot and Kakkonen.
No, and I don't think they are either. I mean, to be honest, and I think that I really think that the history there that they've gone through, like I've said many times, with the owner and everything like that, who has seen his teams go into the back to like the Backstrom days, like when they had Backstrom as their goalie, who was like had a really great year and then gets hurt the day before the first round of the play. Like they have such a history of the playoff goaltending collapses.
Now,
but to put it all on Talbot is a big ask, I think.
Yeah, and I think you were the one who pointed out, Eck, that obviously Guerin, being an assistant GM in Pittsburgh, knows Fleury well from his days with the Penguins. So that would make a lot of sense. And
tried hard to get him. Like really thought, and they thought they were so pissed off at the asking price that McCrimmon was asking 2 years ago when they were trying to move Fleury.
Right.
Because it was crazy, and they wanted, because they were the hardest and closest team to getting Fleury before they get Talbot, before any of that happens. And yeah, there's no question that Guerin wants Fleury there. It would absolutely be such a game changer when you think about it. Like if you get a team like that's playing at that percentage, and then you throw Marc-Andre Fleury into the mix.
Yeah, and they could.
I'll tell you this.
Yeah.
Even though I picked Florida to win the cup, if Minnesota got Pavelski, I would have to think about switching my allegiances there.
Well,
that's one thing that they could really use.
They could make a Fleury trade work because right now their projected cap space is about $3 million.
Yeah,
Fleury's a $7 million cap hit, so you'd have to have Chicago retain.
I would get Pavelski instead. I really would. I'm not worried about the goaltending. I would get Pavelski because if you could have Pavelski centering the top line with Zuccarello and Kaprizov, they might be the best line in the league.
So it'd be a good line. I don't know that I would break up their top line though. I think that I would. I mean,
and then put him on the second line, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, no question that Pavelski is like, and I honestly think the Rangers are going to get Pavelski. I really do. Like, if I was to put a bet on it, I think that's where he's going to go.
I was in the Garden. I did not hear that buzz.
Yeah, I've heard it around. But
it
just
it won't happen. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible they don't, but the Rangers. I think Pavelski is the biggest get of the trade deadline. I really do, and I think that he's going to be the biggest player who goes. Of anybody. Then
Mark says Clutterbuck ends up back in Minnesota. Clutterbuck strikes me as a Bruin or as a Calgary Flame type of action.
I don't get the impression that Guerin loves him. Like, I mean, he was part of Minnesota, but not Guerin's Minnesota. Like, you got to remember the Wild of Minnesota. Guerin's Minnesota is very different than the Wild before that, and it specifically went out of his way to remove a lot of people from that Minnesota.
Yeah, I would think you're right about that one.
That's why
originally I thought it could happen, but I think you're right.
That's why I think like Clutterbuck is a Daryl Sutter type of player.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, and like we've talked about before, there's definitely no question. I think that that he's after Toffoli in Calgary. That's something that I really think is
that makes a ton of sense.
I think if I was to put money on one trade rumor, if I was one guy to go one place, it would be Tyler Toffoli to Calgary, as like my closest you can get to a stone cold lock trade that for this deadline, and I think that could happen sooner than later too, because there's no point in Montreal not doing that now.
But Montreal, I mean, please, this is going to be like a flea market in terms of Montreal, because right now, Sherratt's going to get moved because he's a rental.
Yeah.
I think based on the press conference that we heard, Carey Price is not getting moved before the deadline. No way. I don't think he's waiving his no move clause right now. He might do it in the summer, but I don't think that.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it.
And we heard yesterday, I think it was after you dropped off the show, that Jeff Petrie has requested a trade. That might be great, fine, but he's got 3 years left in his contract. But next in the summer, a right-hand shot defenseman making, 6.25 is hefty, and he's 34 years old. But that's somebody that I think would get them something. They're going to be shot. Toffoli could be moved. Gallagher could be moved. I mean, there's a lot of players that could be moved out of Montreal.
Yeah, I mean, they will definitely move. They'll definitely move Sherratt. They'll definitely move Toffoli. I've even heard, even though he's hurt now, and definitely, like I talked about.
Hold on, I've got breaking news.
Yep.
All right, Milltown Mel, the groundhog that does the Groundhog Day thing every year, has passed away. The Groundhog Day event is canceled. Don't laugh at a death here, Mike.
No, that's horrible. Why? First of all, that's of course it's terrible. But why?
Wait. Does that mean 6 more years of winter?
I don't know what it means. It's never happened before.
I mean, 6 more years of COVID is what it means.
That's how I know. Okay, I am strangely. I am into.
Sorry, I shouldn't say.
Hold on. I'm in tune with Groundhog Day because it's my mother's birthday, right?
I like Groundhog Day. I'm with you.
So it's always a day that I've always had to pay attention to, and I've always had to pay attention to the groundhog. For as long as I can remember, I can't remember one dying so close to Groundhog Day that they've actually had to cancel the event.
It's tomorrow.
Well, they canceled it. They don't have a groundhog.
They canceled. They probably canceled it for COVID. They probably didn't cancel it for the groundhog.
No, I mean, they don't have a groundhog to use.
How do you not have a backup groundhog? Come on, Puxatani.
This isn't the NHL. They don't have a backup.
I'm sorry.
I've got 5 groundhogs in my yard right here in Pennsylvania.
I'm sorry. If
you can't hold it up, it'll claw you to death.
If you're seeing Chris Cornell in concert solo and Chris Cornell passes away, the concert's canceled.
Right.
Yeah, but that's horrible. First of all, secondly,
here's the point. Sorry.
But secondly, I mean, this is a state where there are more groundhogs than Amish.
Shush. Here's a spokesman said we tried everywhere to get a stand-in, but to no avail.
Tried everywhere to get a stand-in. Well, now I know what I should have been doing. I should have been raising groundhogs because I could have sold one at this point.
No babies.
I mean, I got so many in the backyard. To me, they
hold on. No babies
Groundhog.
will be available to replace him until this spring.
What?
Eck, get one of the groundhogs in your backyard.
They're on Netflix, I think there is, or on Amazon Prime. There is a documentary about Puxatawny Groundhog Day and how this all works, like how Phil works.
Put 'em in a trunk and drive them to wherever this guy was, and there you go. They get the replacement.
All right, Russ. I mean, I'm like 3 hours from there, Mike. I could do it.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
let's talk about your blog.
They tried.
If you watch the documentary, the documentary, there's like the groundhog. It's an amazing thing. Like Puxatawny Phil or whoever it is each year, right? It travels around all year long, like the country. Travels the country, visiting schools. Raising groundhog awareness, I guess. I don't know, but groundhogs are just squirrels. You know that they're just another kind of squirrel.
Groundhog awareness. Let's talk about your blog.
I don't know. This is too devastating, Mike. I don't know if I can.
Come on.
This has got me thrown. I'm sorry, as a Pennsylvanian, this is really. I'm completely embarrassed that we didn't have a backup groundhog ready to go.
Well, why don't you go to Harrisburg and go talk to the governor?
Maybe I will, Russ. Maybe I will. All right.
The Philadelphia Eagles had a backup.
Here's an idea. Have your son make you a groundhog costume, and you could just walk around town tomorrow.
I have a groundhog. There's a groundhog puppet here somewhere, Russ. I'm telling you.
Call him Mike the Groundhog. It's like
I'm in the puppet room right now. I'm surrounded by like 50,000 puppets. There's definitely a groundhog in here. Oh, this is bad. This is really bad.
Oh, Jesus.
Maybe my son will have to do a groundhog video. I'll tell him about this. He can do one. Anyway, this is terrible. I mean, if it was canceled for COVID reasons, which would make total sense, because this is like a 24-hour party. Like there were people.
I get it. We saw.
There are people already there who've traveled across the country to see this.
In the last 5 minutes of the show, can we?
I'm sorry.
No,
all right.
I want to
talk about your blog and the interest and the news out of Tempe.
It's only
Mike
2:02, Mike. I mean,
like Mike said, you may have bought Gordon Lightfoot tickets a year in advance. You might get to the event place and find out the day before Gordon Lightfoot is dead. And guess what? The concert's canceled. You got to go home.
But that's Gordon Lightfoot. I mean, we're talking about the difference between groundhogs. I mean, there are surely other zoos. All right, this is the last 30 seconds I'll take on this, okay? There are other zoos in this country that have ambassador animals that are groundhogs. There's no, I know people work at zoos. My son's interning in a zoo. There's a thing called ambassador animals, which they take around with them to people, right? And these are and they train these animals to be good with people so they don't bite you. Like, because you're right, a groundhog will rip your throat out if you try to grab them. If I just try to grab one of these groundhogs in the backyard, I'll be in the hospital. Right. But there are all across this country. You can't get one of those ambassador groundhogs to Pennsylvania by tomorrow. That's just unbelievable.
No, they tried.
Just get Joe Biden. If he sees his shadow, then it's 6 more years of winter.
They tried.
All right.
All right. I'm promising you this. We will do a groundhog thing tomorrow on the show for everybody involved. Yeah. I will go out in my backyard. I will film one of the groundhogs. I promise you, and I will tell you whether or not he sees his shadow.
Okay. All right. So,
all right. Now moving on.
Hold on. We could go overtime.
Jeez, what are you talking about?
No, you shut up, Mike.
We're going 10 minutes long here.
How are you going to do this?
I'm not sure. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have to hook up like 3 or 4 GoPros out there that'll just film the next 12 hours.
Okay.
And then we'll see what happens.
What hour are you going to determine is the hour to see the shadow or not?
Well, no, just whenever I see a groundhog. It on Groundhog Day.
Okay,
it'll have to be.
When you capture that groundhog image, if there's a shadow, you're going to say that.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
you're going to say that.
Right. That'll be tomorrow.
Okay.
It has to happen on Groundhog Day. That's all we know. But it doesn't. So can't happen. So I will have the camera set up tonight. Anyway, moving on. Okay.
Please.
Jeez, this is just rough news. What was my blog about? Oh. Okay. Should we have a should there be a team in Quebec or Houston? If we're going to move a team, like, and there's been a lot of news lately about the Phoenix situation, Arizona situation.
There shouldn't be a team in Arizona,
and there shouldn't be a team. And there's even more crazy stuff going on in the last 24 hours.
Russ, I mean, the article that you posted.
Russ knows a lot about it.
Yeah, the only thing is, it's like there's only one way to interpret this. The Tempe deal is not happening. So all this talk,
and that's what I was told, and I guess they still want to sort of get it. The Coyotes group wants to get it to vote, right? And this panel met yesterday. In order to get them there, they're like certain criteria have to be met. And so the problem was when this watchdog group started getting people to text. The watchdog group was texting people saying, "Don't go for this because it's going to cost you money in the long run." Then the Coyotes came out and said, "No, it's not, but we want remediation of this landfill and we want tax breaks." Well, tax breaks cost you in the long run because that government, those businesses aren't paying their fair share.
For
sure. Guess
sure.
who ends up paying more? You do. And then as far as the remediation of this landfill, well, who's cleaning it up for $0? Nobody. It's going to be the government, and it's going to cost you. And so people, ever since the Miami Marlins, and Mike can speak to this too, I do feel like people have gotten sick of putting up public funds for a place. Places can, businesses can say and billionaires can say, "Hey, it's all privately funded." Yeah, the building's privately funded, but there are other things that are going to cost the public. In the end, these don't really create jobs, and it doesn't really give money to the area. That's the problem.
If the government has to be responsible for paying for infrastructure, that can be more expensive than the building. Right. Especially in Arizona, where that situation I think would be the same as any other place. And I don't think that right now in the pre and post COVID world, you're going to find municipalities throwing hundreds of millions of dollars on a building that won't be filled because the team is proven, even when they're successful, when they made the Stanley Cup, when they made the conference finals, they didn't sell out their buildings. It just doesn't work in Arizona. And I get Gary Bettman is stubborn and he wants to keep it there no matter what. But I don't think that if there is no agreement on a building being in process in Tempe, that they can sell the other owners and the PA on playing in a 3,200 seat arena for 3 to 4 years while they get this building built. And that's why, like, Russ, I'm starting to get the feeling that if this doesn't pass, this is going to be like the Mayflower trucks in Baltimore driving to Indianapolis. It'll be the Mayflower trucks driving from Arizona to Houston for the team to play there next.
Yeah, the Tempe people left a little door open. They were like, "Hey, we're not even close to bringing this to vote yet," and they know that the clock's ticking on the Coyotes. And honestly, I think it's like 2 months, 3 tops. That's all they've got. And if they don't have an answer, they're going to be going somewhere. Maybe the NHL won't tell us. Maybe the Coyotes will still be drafted in Coyotes jerseys, but they won't be playing for the Coyotes. And so I do think that it would be Houston with the league buying back the team. That seems like the most viable option, and then getting an owner in Houston.
Yeah.
I think it would be Quebec, and I would love it to be Quebec, but the Canadian dollar is just too weak.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it's the Canadian dollar, and I also think, and I'm sure people will not like this, but the Canadian government and their approach to what's been going on with COVID over the last couple months, and them costing the NHL tens of millions of dollars in revenue when NHL buildings below the border are at 100% capacity, 100 people in Toronto and 500 people in Ottawa. It's reprehensible. It's like it's killing the NHL this year. The PA is not going to be in support of it because it's going to cost them the money on the salary cap. I don't think I think Quebec with their building and to add another Canadian team should be the way to go. But because of what I just said, I don't think there's a chance it's going to be Quebec.
Yeah, I mean, I went through a little bit of the pluses and minuses for both situations. And obviously the COVID, Quebec was promised a team way back when. And I'll never forget, I was sitting at the 2010 US Olympic training camp. Before Vancouver, I'm sitting there with Kevin Allen. We were sitting next to each other at that training camp. And news comes out that we both heard from the same source, I believe, at the time, like just in different and slightly different ways. I think he got a call and I got a text essentially. And what it ended up being was that Quebec is they met. There was a whole thing that Quebec had met with Bettman and Daly, the people in Quebec, and they were going to build the stadium, but they wanted assurance first that before they built the stadium that an NHL team would come there, and the NHL said yes, we'll be there, right? And that was promised behind the scenes. And then when Vegas came in, it was supposed to be Vegas and Quebec. They went to Quebec, and Quebec said, no, we're going to hold off because the dollar's not good right now, and we're going to wait a little bit because it's a bad time to do it for us. And that, and now that, now they may have waited too long because now you're sitting back with a situation. The dollar's not getting better. COVID has killed them. And these two cities, the difference is pretty astonishing between guess the population. I don't know if you read my blog or not, but if you didn't read my blog, guess the population of the Metro Quebec area.
400,000.
No, it's higher than that. Russ, what do you think?
I'm going to go 350.
800,000 people in the metro area.
Okay.
So I think they could float it at some point. I do.
Metro area of Quebec, 800,000. The metro area of Houston, what do you think that is?
I think that's
Houston's like 2.4 million.
How about 6.5 million?
Okay.
Yeah.
6.5 million in the metro area of Houston. Let's compare that to Phoenix. For example,
Phoenix is
4.8 million. Miami, 6.1 million. These are two other cities that could be moving at some point. But yeah, there's no question. Obviously, that Houston has the people. But they also are going to be the fourth team in town there. They're going to be.
And Houston has a lot of northeastern expatriates.
And a really growing young population that's more into hockey.
What I would do with the team, for 1 year until it gets decided. I go to Phillips 66. I call them the Houston 66ers. I make up the jerseys. I think they could look cool. I also make sure the best player in the team wears number 66. Then everybody in the Penguins gets pissed off because they get mad at anybody who wears the number 66, and they'll start to get a lot of press right away.
There you go.
And Mario buys the team.
The cost of living is 17% less in Quebec than it is Houston, for what it's worth. So it is cheaper.
The only thing is, I've talked to a number of veteran reporters who covered the NHL when the Nordiques were in the league, and they always say that Quebec City was a fantastic place to go, and
it's a great place. I've been there.
They're hockey mad, and you'd have the natural right. The one thing I think we talked about before, if Quebec came in, if they moved Arizona to Quebec, then you'd have to have one team in the Eastern Conference move to the West.
You would.
And that's going to be an issue because nobody in the East wants to move to the West.
No, but they would move Columbus. That's what I was told.
No, I think I think it'd be Carolina into the Central with Nashville.
I would like that. I think Carolina would be great. Like I said before, but I think it would be Columbus.
And they would hate it. They would absolutely
hate it, but they've already been there. They already have a rivalry going with Chicago, and some of those teams in the West. There's already a bit of a rivalry there. I don't know. It's a bad situation, obviously. Where they would go, I think Houston is far more likely, but I do think that Quebec is going to get a team at some point. I don't know when it'll be,
but I just don't think it's right yet.
Yeah, and I don't think the NHL is going to go to 34 teams for a really long time. I think
they're going to get a rescue team. I'm pretty sure of that.
I think there'll be another rescue team, and with all that's happened with COVID, we really haven't seen how that's going to play out long term. I think that 2 or 3 years from now, the COVID reality is going to hit some of these teams a little bit harder, because they're going off of surpluses a little bit now, and there's a couple teams that just might not be able to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's where you'll see some teams end up moving, and it could be Florida that ends up in. It could be the Panthers that end up there. That's possible. And if that was the case, that could be a very good team that ends up in Quebec. When you talk about Quebec, like Marty Biron, who's a buddy of mine, grew up as a Quebec Nordiques fan. That's his team. There are people who grew up, but he's dying for that team to come back, and that was his team as a kid. In that era, that was an incredible rivalry.
Remember, they moved, and the following year they won the Stanley Cup in Colorado.
I know, and there's never been a better time right now. I think to put another team in Quebec. The Montreal Canadiens are definitely at a low point.
The Canadian dollar's dropping too much.
Yeah. No, I know from that point of view, I agree.
It's at 78 cents right now.
No, but like Johnny Red said, experts are saying it could go down as low as 60, depending on how long this coronavirus hangs around and the shutdown stays, and that's possible.
That's directly correlated to the way the Canadian government are approaching COVID. So maybe that's true.
Yeah, and that but that I think we're getting towards. Who knows?
Well, that's the thing, right there. You can't say.
You can't say anything.
You can say if you go to Houston, you'll be able to have fans in the stands because they've had fans all along because they just don't care.
Because they just don't care, right?
Exactly. Just one note before we end the show: the waiver wire comes out at 2:00, and the only player on the waiver wire is Edmonton waiving a defenseman, Slater Cuckoo, which is a little bizarre because that's
how much does he make it?
Less than $1 million, I believe.
So they're not really saving anything.
Yeah, it's not opening it. It probably just to get. Now this is the thing. I haven't heard anything to the contrary. I believe the taxi squads end after tomorrow. Yeah. After today. So I
heard they're continuing.
Oh, they are.
Okay.
I heard they're continuing. I mean, I might be wrong about that, but I heard that was because these new rules are going to be applied after the All-Star game. Again, and I think that will help or hurt. Who knows? I mean, like I say, we don't know what's going on.
Well, it's in a way cap circumvention because these guys don't count against the cap, but then they're available because of COVID. So
I think it's just necessary right now, and I think that it would be taking them out when you're not until you raise the cap. Almost you have to have that in there. It's almost like a fail safe,
And you're not going to raise the cap because the revenue is not going to meet.
Right, the cap's not going to raise next year. Might raise the year after that, but probably not. Still, probably 2 years without raising cap.
This is how bad the cap situation is in this league. That there were teams like rubbing their hands with glee that they would get an extra $1 million, and now that's likely not to happen, they're basically in panic mode.
Oh, I think the extra $1 million will happen.
They're not. They're saying that it's not. They're saying that there's because of the lost revenue.
Yeah, but I think that I don't know. I'm not sure. I would be shocked if it didn't happen.
Let's just say this: if they raise the cap $1 million, it could extend the amount that until they raise it. The big amount. They were saying 3 years down the line that the cap could go up to $90 million. If they raise it artificially $1 million going next year, then that could delay or mitigate what they raise it 3 years down the line. And I don't think any team wants that.
Perhaps. I mean, I think what is fascinating though is in the flat cap world, what we're going to see, because this general managers become way more important. The way this plays out becomes way more important. The flat cap is such a tough thing to deal with, especially with UFAs every summer coming up. Like we have some UFAs next summer that they're going to want money, and where's that going to go? I mean, and will we see what we're seeing in the East, which is this disparity? Like this big difference between the top and the bottom teams. That I'm wondering. I feel like the cap raising little bits by little bits was part of what helped parity. And I don't know if we're going to see that or not. Like I wonder if that's going to be something that case or not. But anyway, we got to go. That's all the time we have for today. Always fun, guys. We'll be back again tomorrow on Groundhog Day.
With your Mel, just so people know if they wanted to write to his family, he was about 6 or 7 years old.
What was that?
Milltown Mel was about 6 or 7 years old.
Oh man, I feel terrible. Obviously, it's a terrible thing.
Mike doesn't care.
But the fact that we weren't prepared for this is really.
I'm distraught.
Was this sudden?
Of course it was sudden. It's the day before. They planned everything.
He was in the go.
He was in the suicide act. He just died in his sleep.
Man, oh man!
Jumped on the cliff.
He was in the ICU.
I don't know. There'll probably be a 12-part Netflix series about whether or not he actually died in his sleep or not. Anyway, we'll talk to you all tomorrow. Remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. We will talk to you then. Groundhog.